Man, it's Christmas week. Who's ready? Liars. Who's been to a Christmas party yet? Everybody? Okay. Who's finished all their Christmas shopping? Raise your hand. Finished. Finished. Wow. The majority of us, that sounds about right. Okay. Who hasn't even started? Okay. Right? I mean, it's a busy time. It's a busy season in life where your schedule isn't really even your own. You're kind of just following what has been laid out for you. The problem with that, or the reality is that in the midst of all of this joy and fun, there are some real issues that are happening in our life. We have real problems. We have real heartaches. We have real issues that are coming up. And you know what? Those things don't take a Christmas break. You know what I'm saying? They don't go on Christmas vacation like our kids do, right? They're there the whole time. I heard a story of a little boy named Chris, and this must have been last year, so just go with it, okay? So Chris got an electric guitar from his uncle for Christmas, which, anyways, that's a pretty good uncle. If he gives a kid an electric guitar, that's a pretty good gift, by the way. And so he gives Chris this guitar for Christmas, and then maybe a couple weeks later, he sees his uncle the next time. I don't know how many weeks later it was, but he sees his uncle. He goes, Theo, thank you so much for that guitar. It was the best gift ever. And so his uncle's like, oh, that's great. So you know how to play. He goes, oh, no, I don't play it. He goes, my mom gives me $1 every day to not play it during the day, and my dad gives me $5 at the end of the week to not play it at night, right? Because sometimes we'll do anything just for a little bit of peace and quiet. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today, peace. As we're in this season of Advent, right? We've been waiting, just as the Israelites waited and going through the season of Advent to talk about different aspects. We talked about love. We talked about hope. We talked about joy. And today we're going to talk about peace. But it's not the peace that maybe you think you need or the way that you think it to be. No, the peace I'm talking about is a little bit different. If you were to look up peace in the dictionary, you would get something like this. I have a picture. All right? Peace, a state of tranquility or quiet. And it gives a couple examples, like freedom from civil disturbance or security by law or something like that, just the sense of peace, of security. We would think, well, okay, this makes sense. This is the kind of peace that gets you a couple more minutes in bed in the morning. You know what I'm saying? When you parents, I don't know if you've ever done this. I know my wife has done this. We have 5 boys, and when they were younger, they would not let her do anything. She would have to run to the bathroom and lock the door to get some peace, right? That was the only place that they kind of left her alone, right? We're searching for this peace. This peace that we know is also the thing that maybe keeps us. It's the state that, like, we're not at war with somebody. We don't have bombs dropping on us right now. We can walk outside without the fear that there's going to be civil war or anything. We live in a time of peace. But that's not the peace I'm talking about. That's not the peace we're waiting for. And there's a big difference between that peace and the peace of the Bible. If you're taking notes this morning, hopefully you have a bulletin on the back of it. I just want you to write this. The Father gives us peace in the person of Jesus Christ. The Father gives us peace in the person of Jesus Christ. You know, in this Christmas season, I know we've heard the Christmas story so many times, right? Every year, same time of the year, we hear the same story. But as I thought about this, as I thought about even specifically this week, can I just tell you this has not been a peaceful week for me. It's been a rather stressful week for me. Anybody else? Anybody? Okay. I'm talking about the type of stress when you wake up and like there's a blood vessel popped in your eye and you're like, where did that come from? I'm talking about the headache that doesn't go away. And what you're searching for is you're searching for a moment of peace, of relief. Some of it goes deeper. Some of it is and we've talked about this over the last couple weeks, and I just don't want to dismiss it. It's not to highlight it or to bring it back up every time and make you think about it. I think you're thinking about it already, but the loss of a loved one. Just yesterday, I did a funeral service here in Lockport for someone that passed away, and all of those family members are going to be without that person for Christmas. That's a reality. That is a real thing that's happening. Some of us have that as well. We may have someone that is away. We may have loved ones that are not near, or we can't get to them, or they can't get to us. Peace. See, the biblical concept of peace means more than the absence of hostility. And it's more than just a psychological state. That's the difference of the peace of the Bible. The Old Testament Hebrew word shalom. Anybody ever heard that word before? Shalom. Right? It means peace. It is, the word shalom and its derivatives have been said to represent or interpret the idea of wholeness or completeness. This idea that peace doesn't just spackle something together to make it functional. No, it makes it complete. Think of like a stone wall or a stone brick in a wall that has no blemishes, no cracks in it. It's complete, it's whole. The prophet Isaiah writes about this peace, this person of peace. That's what I want to talk to you about. Isaiah chapter 9, verses 6 through 7 says, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father," hear it, "Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this." Before we get into maybe the biblical idea of peace, I want to talk about the world's peace. How does the world get peace? Give me some ideas. This is a little of a conversation we're going to have here. How does the world get peace? How do we as humans get peace? Throw me some ideas out. No war? Is that what I heard? What else? Meditate? Peace treaty? Netflix, yes. Netflix and a bowl of popcorn? That could work. What else? Vacation? Compromising. That's a good answer. The Christian answer. Good, you. You. What do? The world gets peace. When something irritates me, what do? If something irritates us, what do? We get rid of it, right? We remove it. If something annoys us, we get rid of it. We eliminate the threats. If something feels threatening to us, what do? We get rid of it. So our idea of peace is more about eliminating the things that cause us anxiety or stress or fear. If you're a problem, you'll be dealt with. We push out with what disrupts our quiet. We push out those that maybe are not like us, or maybe are not our kindred spirit. Maybe we don't gel together. So whatever doesn't work for us that maybe disrupts our peace and quiet, we get rid of it. That's the way we do it. Anything that makes us feel insecure about our future, our quality of life. And that sounds logical. It sounds like, okay, yeah, I'm just trying to protect my home. I want my home to be a place of peace and quiet. When people come there, that they feel welcomed. And the way that I do that is by keeping things out. It makes sense, right? Not really, but we act like that. Because we think that peace is accomplished through certain things. But that's a lot different from the peace of the Bible. How do you know when you had a false peace? A pseudo peace. We settle for security and safety. Who here likes to feel secure and safe? Yeah, right? All the wives raise their hands. Right? But we settle for security and safety as substitutes for true peace. In fact, we think those are the same thing. True peace cannot be found in things like wealth and power. That doesn't bring you true peace. There's plenty of people around the world who they have wealth and power and they don't have peace. They don't have peace. We must also not confuse peace with isolation. Again, this idea that if I just eliminate all the things that bring me not peace or bring me strife or anxiety or fear or worry, if I just push those things out, then I will have peace. No, that's not called peace. That's called isolation. And isolation is also not the way to true peace. That's a counterfeit. Keeping people out doesn't keep the peace. Stay on your side of the line doesn't keep the peace. That creates isolation. And why is that true? Because peace, or there is no peace without relationship. There is no peace without relationship. Peace comes through engagement, not isolation. So, today we're talking about the Prince of Peace, who came and engaged humanity. He didn't leave us and say, nope, you have sinned, you are dirty people, you are not worthy of my presence, stay on that side of the line. We're not the same. He didn't draw a line and create isolation. He didn't break off communication. What he did was the Prince of Peace came to us. He engaged with humanity, and he did it in a weird way. He comes as a baby in a manger. A child is born, a living being, all God and all man in the form of a baby. A son is given, meaning the Son of God. A baby, a child is born, a son is given. Isaiah talks about this prophecy, about the Messiah who would come. And he comes to us in a humble form. The first thing I think about this morning when I think about peace is that the peace of God comes in a different way. The Father gives us peace in the person of Jesus, but the peace of God comes in a different way. Matthew 1, and this is a story that we all heard, and usually we would tell this story, but we're kind of doing a different thing this year, especially with Advent. We're looking back and we're looking ahead. But Matthew 1 tells us the story of Jesus being born in a manger to a virgin, right? We saw that cute video a couple weeks ago of the kids telling the story of Jesus, right? And there was wise men that came from afar, and King Herod was upset because of the prophecy, and he tries to kill all the kids, and it was just crazy mess, right? But Jesus came in the form of a baby. He didn't come as a general on a stallion ready to lead the Israelites into victory through war. He wasn't a political leader able to make change and bring the social justice that everybody was looking for. No, he came as a baby. He came unexpectedly. He came in a different way. And he is the Prince of Peace. Prince of Peace comes in a different way. They weren't expecting that. Have you ever bought something online? All right. Have you ever bought something online and then it got delivered to your house and you realize this thing is like 5 times too small? Yeah? Right? Josh, did you bring that by chance? No, you forgot? Okay. So I remember this story, okay? And I asked Josh if I could share this story. I was hoping he was going to bring it, but, he was all excited. He bought this book bag on Amazon, okay? And it was one of those anti-theft bags, that where the zippers are hidden or whatever. And so he was super excited. He gets it only to find out that he bought a fanny pack that you wear on your back, right? This thing was like this small. And he comes in, hey, man, look at that. I'm like, bro, no. Right? He didn't wear it anymore. Yeah. I was talking to him yesterday if I could share the story. He goes, no wonder it costs so little. It's like, yeah, because it's not a real book bag. Right? Sometimes we buy stuff and it's not what we expected, and that's what the Jewish people were like. Like, this isn't what we expected. The Prince of Peace, the one who's going to bring everything right, is a baby. What can babies do? You have to take care of babies. And here, this Prince of Peace coming to us just doesn't make sense. And Jesus brings us peace that's unlike the world. It's not like shopping something online and getting something that you don't want. Yeah, it's different, but it's so much better. It's so much better than what you think you need. You don't need 5 more minutes of sleep. You don't need 10 more minutes in the shower. You don't even need your coffee in the morning. I'm preaching myself here. Those things don't bring peace. They give you a momentary illusion that you're okay. Momentary. They're fleeting. But that's not the peace of the Bible. There's 2 pivotal moments where Jesus explains his way and his peace is different than what the world gives. And this may be different from other sermons that you've heard on Christmas week. But before his death, Jesus was a baby. He was born. He grew up to be a man, did many miracles. And then he was going to die for the sins of the world. And in John chapter 14, verse 27, he says these words to his disciples. He says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. The Prince of Peace talking. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. What he's saying here is that the peace that I'm giving you looks different than the world's. So however the world attains peace, that's not my way. And that's not what I have for you. That's not what I want to give you. I don't know this morning where your mental state is or your emotional state is or your spiritual state is. And it's real easy to just fake that at church. It's real easy to put on a face that's not real. And inside, behind that nice smile of yours is just a very broken, hurt person in desperate need of the peace that only Jesus gives. So I'm speaking to you this morning. I'm speaking to myself this morning. And he says, do not fear. He says, my peace I give to you, it only comes through me. And he goes, and let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. Why would he say that? Because I think the temptation is, or the reality is, they might be tempted to operate out of fear because there will be trouble amongst peace. In the middle of peace, right? And I think about Jesus being born. It wasn't in a nice, Silver Cross hotel-looking hospital, right? It was in a manger. By the way, there was a king who was killing all kids 2 years and under, trying to line it up so that they could snuff out Jesus. So from the day he was born, when he's helpless, he's being hunted. He was born into violence. This was not a peaceful situation at all. But Jesus, the Prince of Peace, came in the midst of a very crazy situation, an intense situation, in a situation that was not in their control. So maybe you're feeling that. But he says, don't be troubled, neither let them be afraid. 2 chapters later, in chapter 16, verse 33, he tells them this. He says, I've told you these things. I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. There it is. But take heart, I have overcome the world. I think it's so easy for us to live a life of fear. And in fact, many times, our emotions can get the best of us, and we may even make decisions out of fear. I tell my boys all the time, or my family all the time, look, it's okay to be afraid, but fear will not make the decision. Fear will not make the decision in this house. You may be afraid. That's where courage is birthed. But we will not let fear make the decision. It's just not how we're going to live. And Jesus tells us that we have this peace. We have his peace because he gives it to us. Very important for us to understand. Peace does not come from the world. Peace does not come from the world or the things in this world. Peace comes through the person of Jesus Christ. That's where peace comes from. And that's why we don't fear, because the Prince of Peace is ours. That's why we don't fear. I don't fear because I'm on some new medication that takes away my ideas. No, I don't fear because I've eliminated every threat from my life and I live in this bubble so that nothing can affect me. No, that's not why I don't have fear. I don't have fear because the Prince of Peace is right here with me. Because I know him personally. Because he gives me this peace. So I don't run to the things that the world runs to. The Prince of Peace is ours. The second moment comes as Jesus is arrested. He's arrested and he's about to get sentenced for crimes he did not commit. In John chapter 18, verses 33, it reads this. So Pilate entered his headquarters again and called Jesus and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus answered, "Do you say this out of your own accord, or did others tell you to say it about me?" And Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Your own nation and chief priests have delivered you over to me. What have you done?" And Jesus answered this. Listen to this. He says, "My kingdom," and my iPad just disappeared. "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting that I might not be delivered over to the Jews. But my kingdom is not from the world." It's not far away. It's not a faraway kingdom, but it's not of the world. See, the world's peace is won by defeating opponents, crushing criminals, and eliminating threats. The kingdoms of the world defend their people, right? We pay homage to our military who keeps us safe, right? Who fights battles for us so that we may have peace. That's the world's way of peace. As long as my people are okay, that's all that matters. But if all those people over there got to die to get to it, so be it. It's a harsh decision, I understand, but if it's going to ensure peace for my family, then that ain't nothing but a thing, right? That's how we operate. That's how the world operates. But Jesus' interest in his kingdom is one and expanded unlike the world's. It's different from the world's. His servants don't take life. We give up our life. The Prince of Peace modeled that for us. He established his kingdom when he put his hands on the cross and they nailed him and he died and he gave up his life for us. He shed his own blood for others. Which leads me to the second point. With the peace of God was purchased with a violent death. The peace of God that we experience was purchased with a violent death. In Luke 23, normally we would read this around Easter maybe, but I think it's appropriate as we think about the peace that we have or could have. And when they came to the place that is called the skull, there they crucified him. and the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. And Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they cast lots to divide his garments. And the people stood by watching, but the rulers scoffed at him, saying, He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Christ of God, the chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine, saying, If you're the king of the Jews, save yourself. And there was also an inscription over him saying, This is the King of the Jews. This Prince of Peace that was born to us, prophesied by Isaiah, finally fulfilled in Matthew when Jesus is born in a manger in the most unlikely situation. And he is the Prince of Peace. And he grows up to be a man that dies for crimes he didn't commit. And they're mocking him. And it was a violent death. God himself took on the sin of man. He put it on him. The Prince of Peace takes the sin of the world and he puts it on him, their violence on himself. And he died a criminal's death, shamed. What we learn from Jesus is that peace doesn't wish harm on the people that are evil or perpetrators, but he hopes even for them. It just amazed me that the Prince of Peace, as people are mocking him and spitting on him and saying all these nasty things to him, that he says, God, forgive them. Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. They don't realize I'm the peace they've been looking for. Matthew 5. I know I'm jumping around a lot. That's why I'm just reading them all to you. Matthew 5:43 says, You have heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. All right, a little heart check here, all right? Would you love those who are your enemies? Do we do that? Foreign and domestic? Do we love our enemies? Do we pray for those who persecute us? I forgot what I was doing. I wanted to go to my aunt's house last week because unfortunately one of my aunts passed away last Sunday while we were here. She lived in Texas, and so later that night, my truck also was having issues, so I borrowed Diego's car. I'm like, Diego, I need your car. I'm going to go visit my aunt just to be with family. And as I'm driving, I'm thinking about being there for my Aunt Mary and hopefully seeing my grandma and all this stuff. And this lady in an SUV emerges into me with no turn signal. Okay? No turn signal. I'm like, whoa! So I slam on the brakes and I swing into I was in the middle lane. She was in the far left lane. I swing into the right lane only to find out that I just cut off a semi-truck. Right? Because this lady was merging into me. I move over. I see him in my mirror, and it was too late. He's there. He slams on the brakes, and I almost died. Right? I'm so mad at this sweet old lady who's driving this car. And then, so I honked the horn, right? I do what anybody does. I honked the horn, and she flipped me the bird for about 5 minutes as she was driving, just give it to me. Oh. You don't understand what I felt at that moment. Do I love that lady? Do I pray for her? Her fault, no turn signal, almost killed me, put me in front of a semi-truck, and she's mad at me. Wow. Do we love our enemies? Do we love those in our neighborhood that are not good people? What about terrorists? What about murderers? See, the Prince of Peace, he looked down and saw no peace. There was no peace among men. And that's why he came and did what he did. He died so that we could have peace. To bring peace on earth, goodwill towards men. Listen to this in Isaiah 53, verse 5. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him. And by his wounds we are healed. The Prince of Peace died so that we could have peace. The transgressions of the world laid on him so that we could have peace through him with God the Father. Peace is a person. That's Jesus, and he comes to make us complete and whole. He doesn't come to slap a Band-Aid on our issues. He comes to bring peace, real peace. But peace is not the absence of violence. Peace is not the absence of people or things that may be getting away. Peace is something completely different. Peace is the fact that Yahweh, the God of the Bible, is with us. He fulfills and completes us as we sit in very difficult situations or in difficult times. Peace is a person. Peace is the presence of God. God with us. And when we talk about peace, our ambition is to save lives. When I think about why Jesus came, he came to save the lost. He came for the person, for the lady that gives you the bird after she cuts you off. He came for that lady. For sure. Mark 8 says, "What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul?" In this world, we're gonna be tempted by our emotions to figure things out on our own. We're going to be tempted not to trust the Prince of Peace. We're going to be tempted to rely on our own logic and intuition, our own experience or our education. We're going to be tempted to rely on other things and go to other things other than God, other than the Prince of Peace, other than the wonderful Counselor, mighty God, Prince of Peace. Jesus, by his death, comes to give us not only peace on earth by teaching us how to live, but he comes to give us peace with the Father. There's a wonderful verse that says, that to all who believe, he gives the right to be called children of God. I was in Bible study a couple weeks ago, and we were listening to Les and Leslie Parrott. They were talking about some kind of like personality, how you deal with communication, why you say the things that you say. And one of the things they said was they were making fun of their friends who were a certain type. They said, this is the person that, when you're out, they're the people you want to go on vacation with because they've already thought through everything. You know what I'm talking about? Right? It rains and all of a sudden they got ponchos for everybody, right? That person, right? What I love about that, I love about how Jesus thinks about everything. He takes care of everything. He knows everything. He knows everything. He comes to give us peace with the Father, that all who would believe in his name would have the right to be children of God, to live eternally in the peace of his presence. The peace of his presence. Let me ask you this. What happened when the world's violence intersected with the Prince of Peace? Redemption. When the worst that the world could give or produce met with the Prince of Peace at Calvary, what was consistently produced, even today, is redemption. That's amazing. Peace is more resilient than death or the violence of death. Peace is more resilient. It's the idea of resurrection. Jesus rose from the grave. That's the third thought I got for today. The Prince of Peace rose again after 3 days. The Prince of Peace, this peace that everybody was waiting for. Advent is this whole idea of waiting, expecting. And we're looking back at the birth of Jesus, but looking forward to the second return of Jesus, our Prince of Peace. And you can read all about it through the scriptures that talk about when he comes, what it will be like. We read a little bit about that in the past weeks, man, that animals are not going to be, there's not going to be a prey, right? And one who preys on. There's going to be harmony. There's not going to be evil. No one's going to be hurting anybody. There will not be anger and violence and sadness and tears. All of that will be gone. I'm talking about true peace, not this momentary illusion that you're fine. Man, I want that. I want that. John chapter 20, verse 19. On the evening of that first day of the week, when the disciples were together, with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish leaders, Jesus came and stood among them and said, listen to these words. Jesus dies. He's buried. 3 days later, he rises again, and now he's coming for the first time to reveal himself to his disciples. And this is what he says. In verse 19, he says, peace be with you. And after this, he showed them his hands and his side. And the disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. And again he said, peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you. And with that he breathed on them and said, receive the Holy Spirit. Are you sensing, are you understanding this thread of peace that God wants to deliver? What was prophesied about Jesus being born as the Prince of Peace? When the angels come and tell them peace has come. When Jesus grows up and is being crucified, it was for our peace. Our transgressions were put on him. And when he rose from the grave and revealed himself to his people, he said, peace be with you. We have the peace of his Spirit. And when the presence of God meets the ugliness of humanity, intermingled with all of its suffering, it is not overcome. When the presence of God is confronted with the worst that the world has to offer, the ugliness of humanity, the worst things that we have done, it is not overcome. In fact, it consistently produces resurrection. In the midst of broken things, this is the greatest news ever. This is why peace is so sought after, because in the midst of even our lives, and I wonder about your past and how broken maybe you came from, or even today, if there's brokenness in your heart and in your mind or in your heart or in your soul. The heaviness that is when we're supposed to be happy and ripping up presents and enjoying times. And I'm sure we have those moments. And we're trying really hard. But even all of that is a pseudo peace if you don't know Jesus. It's just a momentary distraction. It's a momentary distraction. It's not a consistent resurrection. Jesus didn't die so that I could have a feeling of resurrection. No, Jesus died so that every moment I walk in resurrection power. Flowing through me, his Holy Spirit inside of me, that presence. That out of the ugliness and dark corners of human suffering, there is blooming gently a peace. For to us a child is born. To us a son is given. And the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing it and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. As the worship team comes forward, I just have a question for you. How's your peace working out for you? This is not a judgment. This is a reflection. This is a time of evaluation of your own heart and your own mind. How is your peace? Is it working for you? Is it working for you, or does it always leave you looking for more? Does it leave you abandoned, searching for something else to give you that momentary illusion that you are okay? How's your peace? I wonder if it's peace at all. Maybe you've been living with this counterfeit peace. Why do I bring this up? I'll tell you why. Because life is short. Life is short. And there is a purpose for your life. God has a purpose for your life. And what he wants you to experience isn't this profound blessing of stuff and accomplishments and fame and fortune. That may be part of how he's going to use you, but that's not his will for you. His will is for you to know him. For you to know him. And that he would know you. That you would have this relationship, because peace, you cannot have peace without relationship. It is not built on pushing people out or pushing things out or wrapping yourself in this protective bubble so that nothing can get to you. That's not peace. That's a prison. So I wonder this morning how you're feeling about peace. And I want you to think about that. I want to open up this altar to you. It's just a place to come and have a moment with God. It's a place of surrender. It's a place where, like an appointment, you would walk into a doctor's office to see a doctor. Well, when you want to come and have a conversation with the Lord, you come to the altar. The place where God meets you. That's what this is. It's just a place. It's just wood. But it's a place where God can meet you. And here's the question I want you to ask. Wherever you're at, whatever you're going through, I want you to ask the question to God, will you give me your peace? If that's not what you're operating with this morning, if you have a counterfeit that has now been revealed, maybe you can come to the altar and say, God, will you give me your peace? I want your peace. I want your peace. I don't want something fake. I don't want something phony. I don't want something that is temporary. I want your peace, the thing that never runs out, that never runs dry, that never fails me, that always reminds me that you are with me. Give me your peace, God. Because that's what I need. So as Josh leads us in this song, I just want to invite everybody to stand. And if that's you, I'm going to be here. If you would like to pray with me, I would love to pray with you here at the altar. But if not, maybe you just need to come to the altar and have a moment with God and ask this question: will you give me your peace? Amen. Let's sing.